All right, I'm back answering the Ask Me Anythings. We're going to dive right in with a very heartfelt feeling and really heartfelt message. So I got more context, and this isn't about being envious of another parent or envious of another parent's situation or economic status or the way they're able to parent their children. It's more that she is really frustrated in the moment and almost envious of her children because she was not parented with kindness or compassion, and she also was met with some physical punishments, to say it kindly. And so she watches that she's doing so much, and she's cycle breaking, and she's doing it differently, and yet her kids still act a certain way that doesn't show that appreciation. And she can still be like, you have it so easy, how are you still acting like this? So first, I want to say that I'm sorry that you weren't given such an incredible gift during your childhood, and I want to applaud you for being a cycle breaker. And it is the hardest to be the first cycle breaker. So what you're doing is really noble and courageous, and I applaud you. And it is hard and it is messy because you are untangling all of the things from generations before you. So it's going to be messy, it's going to be hard, it's going to be triggering AF, and I applaud you for doing it. So what I would suggest doing is, when you find yourself being triggered and being reactive towards what would have been an abuse type response for yourself, and you see that frustration triggering and that your blood boiling because your child is being a child, but you would have been hurt for doing exactly what he or she is doing, we need to ground ourselves in the moment. And the only way we could do that is by recognizing these nervous system cues. So that frustration, that rage that you are feeling in your body is telling you that in the past, your nervous system was letting you know this moment was not safe for you as a child. It was not safe for you as a child. Those feelings are still coming up within you, and it's saying this isn't safe. So it's triggering that same biological response system. So we need to take a moment and look at the context around you and say, safe or threat? This is what I do. I put it in two buckets. Am I safe, or is this a real threat? When you realize that you are safe in that moment, it is time to sit and ground. You can do a multitude of things to get you back into your body, but I call these emotional grounding tools. And so you can either, push against the wall really, really hard and kind of discharge some of that frustration, or you can do a big inhale and then let it all out with that noise. It'll stimulate your vagus nerve, and your vagus nerve actually will put you back into your parasympathetic, which is your rest and digest, which is getting you out of fight or flight, which is where that's where your nervous system reactivity is sending you. So once we look at the context around us, we evaluate whether this is a real threat to our safety, even though our body is sending us a threat to our safety. We can say, it is not a threat. My child is being a child. This is my past wounding. I'm going to ground myself in the moment, and I'm going to repeat a mantra that builds up a new belief system that you want to believe versus a past belief system that is keeping you stuck in that rage and frustration. When we stay in the, my child should be acting like this, he should be so grateful, then we're keeping ourselves in a cycle of frustration, keeping us in a cycle that we're repeating past patterns. So you've grounded yourself, you've checked out your context, you've evaluated threat or safety, and then we're repeating that mantra that is going to replace the previous belief systems. And it will take time, and it will be clunky, and there will be tears, and there will be frustration, but also letting your children in on that so that they can see it. So you're not doing it in private, letting them know, this is how mommy feels right now. This is what's going on in my body. And this is how I am going to safely move through these feelings. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to breathe for a moment. Would you like to join me? I'm going to jump up and down and rage dance for a second. Whatever it is, but let them know these are the feelings I'm having. It's okay and it's right and it's safe to have these feelings. I'm also going to move them out of my body safely and invite them into that conversation. And that modeling is true cycle breaking. Congratulations for doing it. So this one was a really cool question. And as we talked back and forth, I uncovered that it was also more about creating a secure attachment with a 9-year-old daughter who is brand new to this woman's life as well. So she is a stepmom to a 9-year-old and wants this 9-year-old daughter to feel secure, not just in a house, but in that secure attachment with her. So I want to just first of all say, I applaud you for stepping in as a step parent. I think they are it is such a hard job, and I applaud step parents, especially step parents who really want an active, loving relationship. I applaud you so much because it is a crazy tough job, and just showing up, asking questions on how to be better is just an incredible thing. So first of all, applaud you for doing that. So there are cool things that you can do with your daughter around finances. If she's bringing in money from babysitting or chores, you can actually set up a spreadsheet and talk about investments, savings, percentages of money to spend, and you guys can map out a savings plan or a goal plan. You could also bring her into what you guys are doing as a couple to save for a house. And I think including her in the conversation will give her a lot of ownership over the whole thing. And also, talking to her about what her dream is about the house, helping her design her room or imagine her room and things like that will really bring her into the conversation and help her own part of this huge thing that you are working towards as a couple and now as a kind of brand new family together. So I do want to make one final note. When I was speaking with this mom, there was the hope and the desire that the child doesn't grow up with kind of an emotional wound around moving to a different place and seeing how their friends live. And I applaud you so much for even having the foresight to think about this. And with that comes just the ability to be vulnerable and open up the conversation. She might not be willing to have the conversation right away, but just to let her know that you are a safe spot, saying something like, I know this is different. I know this looks different, narrating the situation. You might feel this way because you see your friends living like this. I'm here to talk about it. I don't want you to feel alone in it, because when we don't talk about it, then they're left to create whatever narrative they want, and usually it's a more negative, sad narrative. So when we bring it up and we put it on the table that we're strong enough and able to handle it and we're going to be safe for them, so I got cut off. But what I was going to say is when we can put ourselves and present ourselves out there and say, we're strong enough to handle this, I will be here for you, even if it's messy, even if it doesn't make sense, even if it's frustrating, just so that they know that they're not alone in those feelings. That is a super empowering conversation to have, and you can do it, and I'm proud of you, and thank you for asking this question. Patience, something I am still working on as a 40-year-old woman. So teaching a child patience, that's a challenging one, right? So I got more context. This child is 20 months old. And so patience developmentally is not going to be there. And we're just really setting the foundation here. They're absorbing everything that we do. So everything needs to come from modeling. We can also teach patience through play, role playing with scenarios with, animals or stuffed animals. And so that's really going to be the foundation. And when they do have a meltdown, because things aren't happening at the speed that they want, being that safe place for them to have that meltdown. I see, you can narrate. Narrating is the best. I see that you're frustrated that the popsicle wrapper isn't on yet. I'm almost done and I will hand it to you when I'm ready. Just being there, letting them have their emotions, being that safe container for them, and modeling,